Hello everyone! I want to start this video off by saying thank you to all of my subscribers, supporters, and viewers that are watching my content and my videos. This month, this channel hit 100 subscribers, and that could not have been made possible without the support and love from all of you viewers out there. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for watching my content, enjoying my content, and giving your feedback. It's much appreciated. And to commemorate and to celebrate and for me to show my appreciation, I'm gonna share with my channel and my viewers first the most, in my opinion, the most horrible Deadeye build to fight against right now in the current meta. Now, this build is not a meta battle, but I do believe this build is more effective than the one in meta battle. And the reason why I think it's better is because the build I'm about to propose to you is much more survivable. So you don't have to panic and you don't have to worry about monitoring 10 different things, because its survivability comes from having permanent stealth, permanent dodge, you have a ton of ports, and by completing the rotation I'm going to give you, you're going to have every boon in the game on top of that. So it's extremely effective, and let's not forget, for Thief, one of the cheapest things that they have is stealth. And the reason why stealth is so cheap is because it scales with the amount of people you're fighting. And what do I mean by that? So quick background, we all know what Guardian is, right? And we all know what Guardian Aegis is. The Guardian Aegis gives you one block. So if you were fighting an opponent as a Guardian, which is my main, your Aegis will block one attack. But if you're fighting in an outnumbered situation against 5 people, your Aegis that blocks one attack isn't really effective, is it? So that's where stealth for Thief it scales so much better, because whether you fight against 1 person or 5, as soon as you stealth, none of them can hit you. And Thief stealth is extremely effective. I am using Shadow Arts, which I'll explain in the traits. And Shadow Arts allows you to have a lot of sustain with Thief. You can regenerate health, regenerate initiative, you can stack lifesteal and poison people, and you can remove conditions. And that's just some of the perks that you have with Thief using stealth. So imagine having all that, plus a really long stealth uptime with the stealth rotation I'll give you as well. And you have every boon in the game by doing the 2 easy steps I'm going to give you for the DPS rotation. It's just really unfair. You're like a shark dragging people into open water and then annihilating them. And I was careful with my words. You are like a shark, because where you want to fight people is you want to fight them on open ground. And what I mean by open ground is you don't want any obstructions. And the reason why you want to fight them on open ground is because, let's put my back against this wall. If I use my 4, which is a port, and there's a wall, I'm not going to go anywhere. So that's why you want to fight on open ground, because there'll be nothing obstructing your back. Now, I know some really hardcore thieves will say, that doesn't matter, but in my opinion, it does. Whether you're really good or you're a beginner, you want to fight on open ground because it's less effort for you and more effort for the person you're fighting. So what you want to do in this build is you want to engage people and force them to fight you on open ground. And you want to stay away from things like reveal, because even though you've got a really effective rotation and it gives you a lot of sustain, you don't want to have a reveal on you, because that takes away stealth, which is half of your survivability and sustainability. So, let's talk about that. It works because I'm synergizing my gear, my traits, and my rotations and my skills all together, which is what allows me to have such a non-panic kind of easy build that I'm using. So let's start with the gear. So with the gear, I am using Wander. I know this might be a surprise, because Wanderers is, it's normally used for support, and it's usually used for bruiser builds, and Deadeye isn't that tanky, so what am I doing, right? Why am I using a bruiser build? And I'll explain why. Since I'm using Malicious 7, you can probably tell by my Malice stacks, I'm using Malicious 7, which is the Grandmaster trait for Deadeye, I can get a lot of boons. And my Steel also gives me a lot of boons because it synergizes with my Trickster traits. And without Wanderer and some other ways to increase my boon duration, it never feels like I hold my boons long enough for me to really do damage or for me to really survive. So I use Wanderers because through my testing, I feel like Wanderers allows me to have the boons just long enough for me to really feel like they're impacting the fight. And I'm using the Eagle runes with my Wanderer core stats because since I'm using Wanderers, it doesn't give me a lot of offensive potential. So my Rune of Eagle actually gives me that offensive potential that I'm really looking for. And it brings up my precision, so my crit chance is a lot higher, and my ferocity does more damage. And the 6 set bonus for Rune of Eagle has a 10% increase in damage if my target is at 50%. So you're gonna see in my clips, if my target is less than 50% health with 7 stacks of Malice, they're at risk of getting one shot at that point, which is really fun, especially during no down state, because you can really drop people in outnumbered situations because they don't expect that they need to use their heal yet, and then you one-shot them. So this really kind of changes things. You're going to see a lot of people panic when they get hit under 50%, and a lot of the times, depending if they're medium or light armored builds, you can actually one-shot them at that point. So very effective, very, very effective. All right, let's move on to, let's do weapons first, okay? So for weapons, I'm using obviously the rifle. It's too good to pass up for Deadeye. I know there are other builds, but for me, the rifle is just too good. And for the rifle, the set that I think is a bit more casually friendly is the Sigil of Concentration. The rifle is Zerker stats because this is the only stat rifle I have, so I'm using a Berserker rifle. And my Sigils is Concentration, just to increase my boon duration, just a little bit more on top of what Wanderer is giving me. And I'm using Sigil of Force to make up for just to help with the damage. So I just try to augment the damage a little, as much as possible, because I am using Wanderer core stats. And I'm using the rifle 90% of the time. I very rarely switch my weapons into dagger pistol unless I'm except the only times I switch to dagger pistol is when I am on cooldown for all of my traits, or if I need to cleave someone or interrupt someone who's doing a res. So I very rarely switch to dagger pistol. It's very situation based. 9% of the time I spend on rifle. So if you don't like Superior Sigil of Concentration because you're much better at managing your boon durations, you're much better at executing my rotation than me, you can use Superior Sigil of Absorption. And Superior Sigil of Absorption will help you get even more boons on top of your Trickster traits, because the Steel is really good. It's a daze and it's an interrupt, so it's extremely effective. And since you're on rifle 90% of the time, why not steal more boons? For the trinkets, it's a mixture. I'll be honest, it's a mixture, and they're sustain based, so they're not damage based. A lot of my damage comes from the Eagle and the rotations that I'm doing. So I have a mixture of toughness, vitality, concentration, and healing power. And I have some damage stats as well too, like power and ferocity, which are kind of the core I'm focusing in. Power, ferocity, this one's a Marauder. This one is again power and ferocity and a little bit of toughness. And my amulet is actually amulet protection, so I have a bit more sustain. So this actually raises my healing power a bit, so I can get a bit more out of being in stealth, getting my regeneration and heals. So altogether, I find this well-rounds me a bit. It's not exactly a bruiser, so I don't recommend you fight a bruiser build with it, but the sustain that you get from having, you can copy my numbers if it helps, this kind of trait set really allows you to make mistakes. It's more forgiving when you have stats like this, and I feel no loss in damage as you're gonna see in my clips. So I don't feel like not taking Marauder or more Zerker stats has made my damage decrease. If you'd like, you can switch the trinkets for more DPS orientated traits, but I don't recommend that because I feel like more survivability will allow you to do more event damage, because remember, being dead is 0 damage. Okay, so take a look at the numbers and feel free to copy me if that helps, and we'll move into the traits. So for the traits, I am using Shadow Arts, Trickery, and Deadeye. Now I know most of my viewers don't spend a lot of time looking at the traits, they might just copy this, but if you're still listening, just hear me out. Let me explain how this rotation works. So the takeaway from my gear traits is I want more boon duration and more survivability. Here's why. So in Shadow Arts, it gives you increased stealth duration, and you get stealth using your healing skill. So Withdraw doesn't usually give me healing. Sorry, it usually gives me healing, but doesn't give me stealth. But now I'm gonna have stealth from the very first trait that I'm using. I'm using Shadow's Embrace, so I can remove conditions every 3 seconds. I'm using Men with the Shadows. Well, it's kind of a passive, so it's great because it gives you increased movement while you're in stealth, so you can reposition. Leeching Venoms gives you lifesteal, and you get stacks of these while you're in stealth. So keep that in mind when we talk about the rotations. It doesn't really pay for you to leave stealth early, because the longer you stay in stealth, the more spider venom you can get, the more stacks you can get, and the more life siphon you can get. So it doesn't really benefit to leave stealth early. So just keep that in mind when we talk about the rotation. And also stealth attacks also siphon health as well too. And lastly, I'm using Shadow's Rejuvenation, which allows me to heal while I'm in stealth, and I gain initiative. So keep that in mind, guys, all right? It doesn't really pay for you to leave stealth early because you're getting so much benefits for staying in stealth. So the focus that you should have while you're playing this is to take your time with your stealth and only use the amount of stealth that you actually need to do what you're trying to do. Because it doesn't actually pay for you to leave stealth early, to overuse your stealth and lose out on these benefits. For my second trait line, I'm using Trickery. It's a no-brainer because without Trickery, it always feels like I don't have enough initiative. And then when I have Trickery, it's just enough. So the rotation also gives you more Trickery. It gives you more initiative. But let me explain. So we certainly want Thrill of the Crime because you get boons. So your opening will be a lot stronger, and you get Fury, which will take you over the 50% crit chance that you kind of get as you're resting for this build. And it's highly recommended because when you crit with this build, you get more Malice. So you want to crit as much as possible. Obviously you get more initiative and you get some expertise, which is nice. Bountiful Theft, even if this didn't give me Boon Rip, I would take it for the Vigor, because the Vigor is extremely effective with this build because it helps you have more dodge, which gives you more stealth. So I would take this for the Vigor alone, so the Boon Rip is a bonus. You do more damage when you spend more initiative, so don't be afraid to open up and spam your initiative if you are out of stealth, because you do more damage with the less initiative you've got. And Sleight of Hand, in my opinion, is the best for any Thief Power build because the Daze and Interrupt is fantastic. I've got a ton of kills, and you'll probably see some in my clips where I interrupt someone's heal and I finish them off. So it's an amazing ability, highly recommended. If you take Trickster, you should always use Sleight of Hand if you're playing Power. For Deadeye, I am using Malicious Intent, and the reason why is because I find this is the best one, and it helps me finish my rotation quicker. So I will use Malicious Intent. Deadeye's Mark gives you regeneration, which is great, and Silent Scope, it gives you extra precision, and you get stealth every time you dodge. So that kind of synergizes very well with the Vigor that you get from Trickery, and and I'm gonna recommend a food after I talk about the traits, which will help as well too. Iron sight is important. I want to talk about this because when you mark a target for Deadeye, you should always be marking the most threatening target. So these are targets that can do the most damage to you, i.e. rangers or other thieves, or something that can one-shot you or do a lot of damage to you. So you always want to mark the target that you want to kill the quickest, or you want to reduce the most damage from. So if you're someone who thinks, you know, Deadeye and thieves are squishy, keep in mind whoever you mark as your target you will reduce the damage from that target. So keep that in mind. And of course, Malicious 7, which is the core of the rotation, is also something that is very good, because if you pay attention to Magnificent 7, there is no cooldown. So the better you can rotate this build, the more boons, Malice and Initiative you can take advantage of. And if you look here, you also get Vigor by completing your Magnificent 7 rotation. So keep that in mind. From the time you use your Steel to the time you get Magnificent 7, you can, in theory, have permanent Vigor and be able to constantly do damage to them non-stop and have Protection, Fury, 10 stacks of Might, and Swiftness from doing all of that. And let's not forget, your Deadeye abilities can also give you boons. So Deadeye 2, Rifle 2, and 3. 2 can also give you Vigor if you're in your crouch. And it can give you Swiftness if you just use 2. And 3 will give you Might. So you can see that your boons really scale up if you can finish your rotation. Okay? And lastly, before we talk about how to use this build, I also want to talk about food. Usually I don't recommend food, spending too much focus on food when you play your builds. But for this build, I highly recommend the bowls of meat and winter vegetable stew, because it gives you 30% endurance regeneration. There is a level 80 food, which gives you 40% endurance regeneration. If you can afford it, go and get it. Because when you have Vigor and you have this food, all together, I think I timed it once, you can get another, you can get a dodge back after using it at around, between 5 to 8 seconds. So highly recommended, very effective. And let's talk about how to use it. Okay, here we are. Let's talk about how to use this build. So it's very simple. There are 2 rotations you need to know. There is your damage rotation, which is also your sustain rotation. And then you also have your stealth rotation, which is kind of a sustain rotation. So just keep that in mind. You have 2 rotations, damage and sustain, and a stealth rotation. So for your damage rotation, it's very easy. What you want to do is you want to find a target, you want to mark it, then you're going to spam 2 until you fill your Malice. There, look at all those boons, right? Now I'm going to use my Stolen skill and burst. I'm going to refill my Malice as soon as possible so I can get more boons. So just keep in mind right now, there is no Wanderer amulets within PvP. So when you use Wanderer stats, these boons will last longer. This is what I meant by saying that from using the recommended suggestions on Meta Battle, it never felt like the boons lasted long enough. So just keep that in mind. Now, let me show you an uninterrupted rotation. I'm going to target the indestructible golem. I'm going to mark him. I'm going to do my first rotation, use the stolen skill, land the hit, fill the Malice again, hit him, and hit him again. Refill my Malice again. Now I'm going to wait. I don't need to hit him. I steal, use the stolen skill, and then I hit him again. Hit him again. I'm going to use this rotation, using the dodge, refill my Malice. I'm going to wait because I don't need to steal as soon as he comes out. Now I'm going to steal at a good time, use my stolen skill, and then hit him again. That way you mitigate the amount of dodges you need to use for stealth. And if you look at my boons, I have permanent vigor. You guys notice this? So if you rotate this faster, you can have every single boon in the game. And you have permanent vigor, which is what allows you to refill all of your dodges. So just look at how quickly my vigor increases. By using my stolen skill and by using Magnificent 7, I actually get more initiative. So you can sustain this forever. The quicker you can rotate, the more boons you're going to get. And with the Wanderer stats, you don't exactly run out. So how well you perform in this build depends on how well you can rotate. Okay, so let's talk about, so that is how your sustain is built into your damage rotation, because by completing your Magnificent 7 rotation using the suggestions I've given you will actually help you get vigor, plus your food will help you regenerate your endurance more, which allows you to play more aggressively. Now let's talk about stealth. While you're in stealth, you regenerate health and you have increased movement speed, and you can remove conditions, and you also get leeching venoms, which allows you to siphon health and allows you to poison your opponent. So it doesn't really make sense for you to come out of stealth early if you need to heal or remove conditions. So just keep that in mind. When you are stealth, they can't hurt you. So there's no need to come out of stealth early. And if you think of it this way, it actually benefits you to let your stealth expire. Because if you start attacking, okay, and let's say I stealth and I attack, it reveals me. So it actually makes more sense for me, if I'm building my Malice stacks, to let my stealth complete and then start my rotation again. It requires a bit more precision, but it helps you rotate more efficiently because you're not wasting your stealth doing things that don't really progress the fight or help you survive. So try to only use the amount of stealth that you need to survive. If people get on top of you, you don't need to panic either. I know for some thieves, they panic when people get on top of them, and I'm telling you, you don't have to, because if you watch this, if I mark this guy, okay, my force skills removes conditions, it poisons them, and it counts as an attack. So if they get on top of me, just save some initiative and use 4. And look at that. I actually get initiative from that. So you can use that in addition to stealth and your ports, and you can actually reach maximum Malice stacks as well too. So you don't need to panic. You've got a ton of skills like Withdraw, which counts as an evade and gives you stealth. Blinding Powder can also be used if you have no initiative and they're on top of you. You can use Blinding Powder to stealth, or you can stomp, or you can also use this to blind them so they can't do damage. Shadow Step is a must take no matter what you do. I use Sigil of Agility in case I'm taking a lot of aggression from conditions. I actually use this to remove conditions and also regain some endurance. And Shadow's Mend is a must take. This removes reveals, and it also gives you stealth on demand. And you have an ammunition of 2. No reason not to use it with this build. But let's say all of this is on cooldown, and let's say all you have left is initiative. So what you can do is, let's say all this is on cooldown and I just used the rest of my dodge. What you can do is you can switch to Dagger Pistol, hit 5, 2, 2, and 2. That way, you can wait until your endurance regenerates. See? and then I can re-stealth again. Then I can use my traits to get my permanent stealth. So let's say I use all of this again. Let's say I use all my dodge again. See, there's a lot of dodge. I can switch to dagger pistol when it expires, and then I can rotate this until I get my dodges back. Let it expire, and then I can dodge again to use this. When this is used up, I can also use my skills, or I can re-rotate and use my dagger pistol again to re-stealth. So that's a stealth rotation that you can use in order to play this build. It's very effective because, I mean, the people can't hit what they can't see, whether it's 1 or 5. So if you have a lot of aggro on you, you can just stealth up and then rotate between your skills, your dodges, and your initiative to re-stealth. And it makes you very frustrating to fight. They won't know you're there until you're on top of them. So that concludes my build tutorial for the most horrible Deadeye build in the game, which if you use this against me, I won't look forward to fighting it because it's a pain in the ass to kill. And trust me, I know I get a lot of hate messages for playing this build. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you like it, and if you think it deserves one, give this video a like and subscribe. And good luck. Oh, sorry. One more thing I gotta tell you. Okay. I recommend when you try to build your rotations, only use the 2 skill, because let's say I mark this guy here. If you use the 3 skill, it only hurts 1 person. But if you use the 2 skill, it actually pierces. So if I mark the second golem here, if I use the 2 skill, I can still hit it. Right? Death's Judgment might not hit it. But if I use the 3 skill, it ain't gonna work, because there's something in front. So the 2 skill works better because I mainly fight outnumbered anyways. So since I fight outnumbered anyways, I might as well use the 2 skill because it pierces. Anyways. Sorry about that. That's the last thing. Make sure you use the 2 and not 3 because 2 pierces and it always ensures you hit your mark. So on that note, good luck and have fun.